Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position.
Dungeon master and dwarven sword master, hobgoblins, dwarves, elves, and halflings are some of the characters and terms used in this very complicated and controversial game.
You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome. It's been a while. I haven't done a natural one stream in a while, mostly because I don't like any of you out there. I'm just kidding. I've been super busy, but I'm happy to be back streaming, talking with Vic, and we got the Black Lodge Games boys here talking about their Kickstarter. Shucked Oyster. I'm excited.
Thank you
to talk to
so
you
much for having us on.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for coming on. It's motivation again to get back into spending time on my channel here and and talking to cool people about the hobby. We all
still the best
love.
Intro out there. The best vibes. Not the longest intro. That belongs to Shawner.
Yeah. It's like 12 minutes now, I think.
I don't like the idea of long intros, because then if I have guests on like you guys and then you're just sitting there like twiddling your thumbs for 12, 15, 30 minutes while my awesome intro's playing, and it's like, nah, I can't do that. That doesn't seem fair.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys are back. It's kind of come full circle since we kind of helped you guys become popular to begin with.
You got us no, you guys really got us a lot of subscribers in the beginning. That was so like, still thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Your guys' channel's taken off, and you guys, I mean, let's just get to it. Like, your guys' Kickstarter's done really well. You got funded in 6 hours. Is that what it was?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Wow. There you go. You reached some milestone in 6 hours or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think we got to like 200% in 6 hours, and then 400%.
Well, no, we got to 200% within the first hour, and then in just under half a day.
Yeah,
it was 4x because we hit 10K.
Yeah, we hit.
So
10K.
maybe it was like 7,500 in 6 hours or something.
It was crazy. It was a blur. We did a launch party live stream,
which was awesome.
We had a rave, which I think is the first rave in TTRPG launch history.
In the space.
I enjoyed it. I was watching. So.
I saw the screenshots. I wasn't able to tune in, unfortunately. I think I was being dad with my child at the moment.
Much more important and a much more worthy cause.
But I saw the screenshots and it looked like it was a lot lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we leaned into the bit. I was dressed as Shakespeare and Nick was dressed as Dracula. So we really went for the theater kid vampire thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patty says he's proud of you boys.
Oh, thank you so much, Patty. And we got another one of his art pieces today. And
awesome.
Patty will be sending the check soon. Not check, easier way for you to get the money, but thank you so much. And thank you, John, for the art that you did for this was so good. The cover was
both the pieces are awesome.
Yeah, we got it. We were just
excellent.
like, oh, exactly what we wanted. Like, it was incredible.
I'm glad to hear that, because working with people, sometimes you never know, and you're like, people have a vision in their head, and hopefully I'm close.
Oh yeah, and like we've seen so much of your art. Like Makwahitl is like one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because it's just start to finish 100% your vision, and the art in it was so good. And like we've been looking at a lot of your stuff, and we knew you were gonna get it. Like the Frazetta aesthetic. We have, of course, our two legendary monsters on the cover, natural enemies, vampires and chimpanzees.
Of course.
Yeah.
Every biologist knows this.
Yes.
What goes back to the Bible, I think, even. So,
Correct.
Mercurius, thank you for, I don't know who you gifted it to. I'll have to check in a minute, but thank you.
Nice.
Your art also kind of went around now, your cover art, because somebody pretty huge retweeted their Kickstarter. So
yeah. Our buddy Michael Malice funded it. Which was really awesome.
How do you? I'm curious. How do you know Michael Malice? Where did you guys meet him at?
I lived in New York for about a decade, and I met him through a meetup. It was a anarcho-capitalism meetup in New York City in like 2011 or 2012.
Okay.
So it was right before he went to North Korea to do his research for his book, Dear Reader, which is excellent. Everybody should read it. And yeah, we hit it off and became really close friends from there. And I helped convince him to move out here to Austin. Me and my friend Jay did that. And it was just, it was great for him to move out here and great to see him support the project.
Malice is funny. I love him.
Man, yeah, he's hilarious. He actually, so I don't think he's actually played RPGs, but when he was a kid, because if anybody knows Malice, he's got very interesting rabbit holes that he goes down on things and whatnot. But when he was a kid, he was obsessed with D&D. Like had the entire Beck Me set, box sets, and everything like that. And he never played, but he was obsessed with like the monsters and everything like that.
There's a lot of people like that. Vic's mentioned how, like, I think he said the 2E monster manual when you were a kid or something like that.
Yeah,
you didn't know what it was yet, but you thought it was cool.
Oh yeah, I found it in a library while I was just like browsing like all these like weird corners, and I found the 2E monster manual, and I had no idea what any of the numbers meant. Like it was like I knew what D&D was from the cartoon, but I didn't know how to play it. But, like all the monster images, like they just like immediately just like opened like all this imagination in my head, and it never went away.
Yeah.
Better or worse.
I don't know how you can't like have your imagination set on fire by that stuff when you're a kid. It's so cool. And I don't know if it's I think it might be for little kids. It's harder to get into that because it's not just in the bookstore or anything like that. But
it might be harder to get in, but like
once you're in, now is like the best time ever because there's just it doesn't matter how specific your tastes are. There's something out there for you.
Sure.
For sure.
And I think, this is like your guys' first project. And I think this is a testament to this is that like, we're like in a new indie age, I think.
Oh yeah, totally.
Too, and that's good.
Yeah. It's amazing.
We have the 60s nonsense coming out, and I'm not interested in that, anymore.
But I don't think anybody else is either,
which is a boon to the indies. So
for sure it is. I think we've talked about this, kind of offline elsewhere, but if this edition doesn't kind of blow it out of the water, there probably will be a kind of a contraction in the TTRPG market. But there's been so many new people brought in over the last decade that even if you have people who kind of fall off, there's still going to be a lot more people who are hyper dedicated to the hobby than there were previously.
Right.
Yeah.
And the signal to noise ratio will become much more favorable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
man.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And thank you so much to everybody who's backed this.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
But yeah, I agree. I say this as a creator too, and I look forward to this going back to a bit of a cottage industry.
Oh yeah,
in a lot of ways. Yeah. Small teams of people.
I think it'll be better than a cottage
projects.
Industry. Like I think what happens post 6E or whatever the hell they're calling it now, there will be a contraction, but I don't think it's not going back to the 70s. It's not.
No.
Right.
And that would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like in many respects, because the internet is a thing. It's been a thing for a very long time at this point. It's just going to, I think, clear away a lot of the, what would you say? The genre conceptions or like the market conceptions that exist right now. And it's just going to be more of, I don't want to say a blank slate, but the landscape is going to be a much cleaner place to hone in on what you find interesting.
Yeah.
And I think in the absence of D&D or WotC as like a looming monolithic antagonist, there's going to be a lot less of a like a trap to do like heartbreakers for heartbreakers' sake.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a lot more people. I hope we see a lot more people really answer for themselves. What interests me and what do I think is interesting? I'm not just trying to recapitulate something louder with, you know what I mean? For the sake of just doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to be really great, I think, in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So basically go back to like the 90s, early 2000s when you would have like these games that were like really popular within their like specific niche.
Yeah.
And you would hear about them all the time, like Call of Cthulhu, what's that, Paranoia, like all those games.
Yeah.
And they weren't D&D, but they had like their dedicated fan bases and they did well. And that's kind of what I want to go back to. Like, I didn't even really get into D&D until like, I don't know, like 3-4 years ago. Like I played it before and stuff, but before that, like all the games that I liked were just like all these like weird like niche games, like Twice Stats, you know, like so. So going back to that would be awesome.
Yeah, and just to hopefully have more people who are more seriously interested in it, because it's not bad having people who are casually into these things, but when the market is dominated by the casuals, things get kind of dumbed down. I don't like that.
Right.
I want this.
Yeah, there's a natural place for casual people.
Yeah.
But when like the scene, if you want to call it that, is healthy, you know, you do have a thin, slow orbit of people who are more tangentially interested. And it becomes easier for people who start casual but actually find themselves interested to be, you know, incorporated into the scene, you know, in a more natural way. And there's always going to be just casual people who exist on like the periphery, which is fine, but we're not, like you said, you're not catering to the periphery. And you know, the scene doesn't become defined by the periphery.
Well, speaking of D&D, like I think third edition used to be kind of like that. Like you had people that were very casual that played it. It's like, yeah, I'm just a fighter with a sword. But then you also had the people that were like really like deep into it. They knew exactly how to min-max that system. They like knew everything about it. And I think that should be the baseline. Not the casual should not be the baseline.
Right.
Yeah, sure, you can play. You're invited. You can come in and play your fighter with a sword. But the baseline should be for like those giga nerds that really want to like,
the people who really want to go far on it.
So I have your guys' Kickstarter here for people that, and I'm gonna throw a link to it in the chat. It's
thank you, man.
It's in the video description, but it is in the video description, but I'll put it in the chat here too. So yeah, you guys, you asked for 2,500. You're at 11.
Very gratifying.
Very validating.
I mean, that's cool. But I mean, I think from what you've shown me, and we've talked about, you know, behind the scenes and everything, and what I've seen you guys talk about, and we'll get into it. Like they're getting a really neat sort of, I think, useful tool here. I kind of like, based on what I've heard from you guys and seen and what I've seen myself, I like these kinds of tools essentially that kind of they put a lot of things in the player's hands, and it's very much you're giving GMs who are running Shadowdark, or really, I mean, this is compatible with a lot of different systems.
Pretty much anything,
But you're giving them something to use to sort of, from what I understand, make downtime a little more interesting.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's basically, it's not something that like, okay, we're gonna play this module tonight and we're gonna 100%
we're gonna do the Shucked Oyster story.
That's not how it works. It's really it's meant to hopefully you have kind of a long-term campaign going, you have a regular group, and this is something that you just kind of put in your town, and it can fit into any town. We left the setting pretty vague in terms of, you know, like we didn't even use the gods listed in the Shadowdark core book because we wanted to give people a chance to just fill that in with their own. So it's just gods of law or chaos are referenced. But you just kind of put it in your own town, and then over time, through random encounters or even planned encounters from the GM, you can bump into like all these weirdos that we made in the NPCs, and if you hurt or help them or ignore them even sometimes, then that gains you enemies and friends, and it kind of draws you into this place. And it's been really cool because it's non-linear. It's not meant to be like a beginning, middle, and end to this thing. Even if you kind of complete the major pieces, like the major set piece dungeons and things like that, it's not over. Like it's our players just have completed. Actually, they're about 1.5. They're about 75% of the way through the dungeons because we did stop mid-session
in one
dungeon. Thanks for showing up, guys. No.
Yeah, get out. No. But it's they've completed some major pieces from it, but it's like still haven't even scratched the surface, and there's a bunch of other stuff that's kicking off now
that they have no awareness
of.
Likely catastrophically misinterpreted.
Yeah. Which is great. So it's meant to sit in the background, and eventually it'll pique their interest enough that they start wanting to get to the bottom of it. And then it'll just blow up your campaign and take it in completely new directions, which it has potentially, as one of our players told us yesterday, it may have burned down our entire campaign. They said that they've figured through various circumstances of gaining some very powerful magic that exists in this game. They said that they will be in control of the Oran Empire in Acts 2 within a month, based on the rules lawyering that they've done. We'll see if it's true.
But one of the players reached out to Macrease, and Macrease did not deny it.
Yeah, he went through his rules lawyering on how to use these magical items within the context of Adventure Conqueror King. And so that's the thing. It's not only for Shadowdark. You can use this with basically any fantasy game that's like D&D. He contacted Alexander Macrease, and Macrease laughed considerably and then said, yes, this is a fair interpretation of the rules. And apparently the game's over after this. I don't know. We'll see. So if we've burned down, I would consider
Don't
that.
ever reach out to Macrease as a GM, because he will side with your players.
Yeah, he will side with your players.
That should be like a rule. Like, you don't get to contact Macrease when you're in my game.
Yeah. But it's really cool. It's non-linear, and it should give you a lot of new stuff to do in your campaign.
Yeah. And hopefully for a lot of people, it'll serve as not only obviously a point of inspiration, but as a point of reference for framing other areas, characters, locations. Because again, this is just one place. It's one building with, over 24 different characters we have laid out, but a city, even a village, comprises a lot more people than that. So, this is sort of a, hopefully a guide for people to, add some additional depth and drama to their games. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I like anything, like I said, that kind of gives, I feel like there's very few games out there that sort of really naturally sort of cause people to want to engage in downtime activities. In a lot of games, like Adventure Conqueror King is one where players are given a lot of mercantile type things and things that they can explore. Shadowdark does have the carousing tables and things like that, and which I know you guys implement an aspect of that in this.
That's the kind of the whole thing that kicked this off, was the idea of carousing. And we have the carousing also. We have our own carousing inputs and outputs in a table, exactly like the one from the Shadowdark core rulebook, that helps get you involved in all these weird conspiracies and everything like that. So we're trying to, we were like, we like that. let's amplify it. Let's turn that up to 11,
And that's cool. I feel like that's like where a lot of design comes from, where you're looking at something and you're like, it'd be really, this is a neat little thing. And what if I take this thing and apply it in a new way that people haven't really tried yet, or even just like you guys said, like let's dial it up to 11, and have it connect to things that maybe most other people would not ever think to connect it to. I think that's that's the way to make little innovations that lead to actually big innovations in your game. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened, because we thought this was going to be like 20 to 30 pages when we started. So like, we're just doing like a little carousing expansion, and it like the idea just kept snowballing until it was this much larger thing. And I think we followed it pretty much to the natural conclusion of that idea, which is awesome. But it's a lot of fun. So if for anyone out there thinking of making something, that one little idea that you have that seems cool can spawn an entire several hundred page book.
And not only that, for us, it led to other realizations, which are definitely beyond the scope of this book.
Yes,
but not beyond the scope of possibly different books.
Oh yeah, not possibly. We're
definitely
there will be more installments in the Oysterverse.
Oysterverse.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually like fairly involved behind the scenes as far as like getting updates went. Like you actually told me the original idea and stuff like that. So like originally it's like, I'm like writing like this brothel like thing for like Shadowdark. Like, oh, that sounds cool. And now it's like this huge thing. You've made like a ton of money on Kickstarter. It's getting retweeted by like Michael Malice. I'm like, so just watching it blow up has been really awesome.
Yeah, it's been super fun. And this is one of the things Malice actually because he's a writer, and he said this a bunch of times in different interviews and stuff like that. But people ask him, like, how do you become a writer? And he's like, well, first of all, you got to just do it. He's like, but you can't be afraid of like success or failure. He's like, just go into a bookstore, look at all these terrible, mediocre books that are on the shelves. He goes, that could be you. You could be up there.
Hey, so, terrible, mediocre writer. Hey,
not at all, dude. Your stuff is awesome. Art you're getting for single action and modern necessity is so good. It is
that artist is awesome, and I'm going to try to cling to him as long as I can.
That's one thing too. People like ask me all the time, not all the time, I shouldn't say all the time, but people ask me like, oh, it's so cool that you do what you do, and I could never do that. And it's like, dude, I'm an idiot. Like I'm a big dummy. Like you could do this. It's not it's totally
definitely
possible.
can.
You definitely can.
Well, I really feel that because I've been wanting to write and do this stuff for like decades, and I was always afraid. I was always afraid of just sucking and looking like a fool. But then there comes a point where you're like in your mid-30s, you feel age creeping up. You're still like living from week to week, and I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I can't get any worse. So I just started doing it, and now I'm here. So
and it's never been easier to get started with this. And this was something that we were like when we were first making this, we were like, and we spent a considerable amount of money on art for this book, but we were like, we don't know how to draw, and we don't know how much this is going to cost to do this. But at Victor's recommendation, we checked out on Drive-Thru-RPG, and there is so much good stock art. Amazing stock art on Drive-Thru that you can get for a very, very good price. And so we leaned on that a lot, and we got a lot of we got stuff from Patty's Parlor, who's in the chat doing stuff, Basic Expert, as well as we started searching. We have like one or two pieces in there that are from public domain, but there's really incredible stuff that you can get off of like the Metropolitan Museum, the Met, their website. You can get super high quality. Whoops. Just making sure we're not getting a group call from our RPG group. But you can get super, super high quality stuff from the public domain and use that for free in your work. And it's much easier to do that for fantasy stuff than it is for modern.
Sure.
But you don't have to be concerned about that. You can really go a long way with resources that are already out there.
Yeah, there really are no insurmountable excuses not to do it.
Right.
Even if you had no art, which there's no reason you can't get at least some art. But we recently did a video talking about Mithras, and Mithras has a very limited selection of art pieces. They're all
very
black
good.
And white, except for the cover. But it works.
Yeah.
But
and that's
85% of it is text only.
Right.
But it's good.
That's like Classic Traveler. The cover itself is just black with white lettering and a red stripe going through it. And inside there's like, I think in the original 3 LBBs. There's just like 1 or 2 illustrations, maybe 3. You know, and that game is so well beloved. You're not gonna sit and tell me that Classic Traveler is a bad game because it doesn't have art.
Yeah.
So
there's games with awesome art that are like terrible
that are bad.
Yeah, there's a ton of there's a ton of games out there that have at least technically proficient art that are trash.
Hot take, I don't even think Mogbog art is that great. It's kind of an eyesore, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, people love it's like edgy looking design. And,
it's a vibe, and like the black and yellow is very striking. So it is unified, but more like it's more of an art book than like a gaming book, I would say.
I mean, you can use it to game, but it's not complete.
I've never seen it, so okay.
I played a one shot of it.
So go ahead, John.
Honestly, I'm just not not a fan of it.
So Petty Spoiler here said something I kind of want to highlight. As a creator, I do think this is very important. Get yourself like a nice, like a cool group of like fellow creators or just dudes that will like support you, that you can bounce ideas off. Like it's really important because I've noticed this of myself. Like if I don't engage enough in the hobby, I get kind of like dispirited and my creativity just tanks and all that stuff. Like I had that recently. I'm still just building it back up. But it really helps when there's people like you know that have your back. So
I mean that's true in general, but it is doubly, if not more so, true if you're trying to like do something.
Right.
You really do need to have a circle of people around you who are like truly supportive in the actual sense of the word, not yes men, but are also not like energy vampires.
Yeah. Well, and people that are in the same boat kind of like help.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like we've all got like we've all really got kind of like different gaming philosophies and the kinds of things that we like. But it's been awesome like meeting everybody through YouTube and now Guild and Discord servers and things like that. And like you make a lot of friends through doing this. And I would also recommend start a YouTube channel because we could not have had anywhere near the success that we have had so far on this.
If we just did this without starting the YouTube channel, it would not have gone the way that it's gone.
And it really helped because we were making videos about this for the last like couple months, and that really kind of paid off because then we were using those as ways to kind of like get people interested in the Kickstarter beforehand. But then, you know, when we set up the Kickstarter, we're like, oh, we need to put let's put those videos on here. And so we had a bunch of content to put on the Kickstarter too. So it ended up serving two purposes. We didn't think of it that way, but it really helped kind of boost up the kind of the imaging on the page and everything like that, which was awesome.
Yeah, having a popular YouTube channel definitely helps. Like I've seen like YouTubers that have like no experience in game design or whatever, but they just have like 100K like YouTube channel and they plop something on Discord or on Discord Kickstarter, and it's like, oh, here's like $1 million. I'm like, okay, but it's like
that's
good for them.
I'm not begrudging them it. I wish I could do that too. Like I'm a capitalist at the end of the day. Like I mean,
that's kind of something that I've been thinking about because then you've got all the the latest scandal going on with the D&D YouTubers who are reviewing the new D&D book and everything like that, and like I don't begrudge those people that at all. First of all, because like they're like I understand if WotC was telling you can't say anything negative about this book,
right? You're literally
bought and paid for. That would be bad.
But like if you got a book and you got like a thank you, check for like literally selling my product by reviewing it, like what happens in literally every other industry. It's
every product. It's like makeup, video games, like anything that this happens. But the other thing is, it's like I don't think that those YouTubers like are doing this cynically. They like D&D. They like a version of D&D. Yeah.
What are they getting? Like a couple $100? Are they getting like $1,500 maximum? I don't know what it is, but like they're not getting a check and like keys to a Ferrari.
Yeah, they're promoting a game they actually like, and so it's
they were doing it for free
anyway for free.
Yeah, and I can say like I'm not into the what WotC wants to sell as Dungeons and Dragons anymore. You know, I haven't been for a while. So like if WotC approached me and said, hey, we'll give you bags and bags of money to review the 2024 Player's Handbook, I'd be like, my question would be like, okay, maybe, but I'm not going to be super nice about it.
Right.
Like, are you sure you want to do that? Like,
if I can give you an honest opinion, yes, I will take your money.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to do it because you're asking me to give my opinion. You're commissioning me for my opinion.
Right.
That is a fair exchange.
Yeah.
As long as I'm free to say I don't like it or I don't like this thing.
Yeah.
If that is the way that it goes, then yeah.
This is also why I didn't really get all the accusations against Kelsey that she like paid for like good reviews and stuff of Shadowdark.
It's so ridiculous.
Even if that's true, who cares? That's called marketing.
There's nobody. If WotC doesn't have the money to like literally pay people off, no one else does either.
Well, but even if it's true, who cares? That's called marketing. Like if I can pay somebody like $300 and he's gonna be like, hey, check out Modern Necessities, like Professor Dungeon, whatever. What's his name?
Professor Dungeon Master.
Like, hey, check out Modern Necessities, and I can get that for $300, and I can get 5,000 in return. I'll do that. Sorry.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like this is a hobby we like, but like you want to have whatever project you're working on at least break even. You know?
Like, if I'm making something, if I'm already trying to sell you something, you know, we're in a business dynamic now, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's this sort of it's this weird, continually cancerous, like tumorous, a self-devouring like concept, like the hipster conception of thing, of like the sellout. It's like, what are you even talking about?
Well, you know, like I'll say, like when I did Makuhito, you know, I paid for ads on X, for example, and I paid for ads on Facebook.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, what a shill. Like, it's like Twitter as an or like, you know, Facebook as a non-human platform. Selling out.
But I mean, I did get some reach from that. It was I didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. It was maybe like a couple $100 or something like that on marketing. It wasn't anything like groundbreaking, but you know, it did get eyes on the Kickstarter, and that definitely helped. And so I kind of see the logic of like what's the difference between me giving Facebook money to plaster my book all over people's feed and me paying, you know, or asking someone to review and maybe monetarily incentivizing them, especially if there's you can give your honest opinion. Like,
that's the condition.
Like the monetary incentive is for you to do the thing, to give your opinion.
Right. If you are paying for a specific opinion, that is obviously off the table and bad.
Right.
But yeah, like I think that this whole thing has been such a non-controversy. Like a true nothing burger.
Well, and you know what I see a lot too is a lot of the people, for instance, complaining about the WotC thing. Like they don't even play WotC D&D, so like why do you care? Like what I don't even care. Like the reason why you don't see, like we're talking about it now, but we don't talk about it a whole lot on here, and I restrict it to a lot of old school D&D talk is because like I don't care about what's going on in that sphere over there. That's cool for them over there. Have fun over there. I
don't buy or play those products, so I don't have an opinion on them other than they're not really for me. That's about it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we talked about 5e a fair bit on this channel because I play 5e, I ran 5e, I've written for 5e, so you know that's fair. But I have no interest in 2024 D&D, so we're not going to really talk about it.
Well, and technically, you know, it's if you're a Zoomer, 5e is old school. So
yeah, by now, it's like a decade old now. So yeah,
2014 to 2020.
Yep.
But yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more about your project here too. You know, so you got your various tiers here. You guys are you're fulfilling everything through DriveThruRPG.
Correct.
I understand, which is cool. That's what I did for part of Makuhito. It's
I have the soft cover.
It's a lot less nightmarish than
because that was
the goal.
We're
less opportunities for failure.
Yeah, less opportunities for us to really shoot ourselves in the foot. Like we want to keep everything simple So fulfilling through drive-through, we do eventually want to do like offset printing and things like that.
Yeah.
But we just we did not want to have some big screw up or something like that on our first thing out the gate. So we ultimately decided to go with drive-through. I own a ton of drive-through products. Some of them are up here right behind me. Yeah, I'm very pleased with their quality overall. So when we have I'll be very happy when we get to the point where we can get our physical proofs of this, but that'll kind of just depend on the stretch goals that we got. So,
yeah, we're already on the hook for one.
We reached our first stretch goal.
Let's see, what are you guys' stretch goals?
They are the first one. So the way that the module kind of works is that you place it in a town or like a certain district of your town. One of the cool things about Shadowdark's core rules is it's got like 1 million random encounter tables. But even for cities and towns, they have different districts like Artisan District, Slums, Castle District, all these different things. And so what we were like is like, okay, we could just take this, and depending on which district you put it in your town, you just swap out the random encounter table for that district for our random encounter table about the Shucked Oyster. So when you can start rolling random encounters and getting involved with these different characters and things happening.
It's a little more seamless. It's a little more seamless in your campaign, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to make any sort of major changes. And this was like really cool too, because it gave me a much deeper appreciation for Shadowdark when we were first like writing, like figuring out like, okay, how are we going to do these dungeons and everything like that? Like really just diving into the core book and the dungeon generation. We used all the rules there for stocking the dungeons. We didn't follow the mapping rules which are really cool, by the way. It's like you roll a bunch of dice depending on like the size of the dungeon and everything.
And you draw the rooms around where the actual physical dice are.
Them. Yeah, it's really cool. But we had mapped out already what we wanted, and then used the mechanics for populating it, and that was really cool because it gave us a ton of inspiration. It added like really interesting things that were great, like some of the like finding NPCs and things like that in the dungeons is so much fun. But the terrain and town generation is also awesome. Like the tables in Shadowdark are so great. So we didn't want to add a ton of new mechanics that were going to change how the game already plays. The kind of prime mechanical change that we made is in regards to the social mechanics. Anytime that you get into one of these random encounters and interact with these characters, depending on what you do, you might end up basically adding or subtracting bonuses to future reaction rolls with the prostitutes that work at the Shucked Oyster. And so this is cumulative and it builds up over time, and it can really swing their behavior very dramatically. And that's how it's meant to be. So, it's like you can have like a -10 to a reaction roll. So it's just like automatic hostility or a +10. But then when you go to carouse, on top of the regular carousing rules, so basically it's like you spend a certain amount of gold pieces to get a bonus on a carousing outcome. And so you roll a D8, you add that bonus, and then depending on what you get additional experience points and potentially
complications, allies, enemies,
new rumors, new adventure hooks. That's how it works in the core rules. But what we do is we add our kind of total oyster modifier from all the other stuff that you're doing on top of that. So it can swing your carousing outcomes really widely. So if you get the lowest roll possible, you get turned to stone by one of the prostitutes who's definitely not a Medusa. And then after you carouse, that modifier inverts. So if it was negative, it's positive now. So next time you see them, it's like the prostitutes are totally
most wild and
mercurial. It's like they hated you before, but now they love you. Or vice versa.
Don't you remember that thing you did when you blacked out?
And now I love you because
you party with the the brothel matron. You won a smoking contest.
You won a cigar smoking contest with the madam.
With the madam, okay, all right, this guy's all right.
I think you lost.
I think you lost.
I don't think you can win against her, but it really is supposed to make things a lot more like weird and dynamic. So that's kind of the main thing. But the stretch goal, which is how this kicked off, is that we're making a wilderness encounter table as well. So even if you leave town, you can't escape,
right.
And we're still kind of considering some of the factors on how to design this, because we don't want it to just be always substituted for whatever wilderness hex you're in, you know. So it's like occasionally you'll swap this out, because you don't. We also don't want to interfere with the other adventures that Shadowdark just generates on its own with those rules, because the random
the point
encounter
isn't for the Shucked Oyster to take over the
game,
take
over the campaign. It's supposed to simmer until your players really want to dive in on it. But yeah, the random encounters in Shadowdark are really good, and they're also super dangerous. Like we were going through like the tomb encounter table. It's like you can run into 1d4 mummies. You know, that's like a level 8 monster. They're super powerful. It's like, okay, I guess we're level 1 characters who went into the dungeon and got 4 mummies.
We didn't do it. It's in the core book.
Yeah, so it's
Shadowdark in general is really dangerous. Like if you have like a spell mishap, it's like, oh, you just blow up. It's like, okay,
you blow everything. It's like, okay, you started the game with 2 hit points. This trap does 3d10 damage.
0 chance you don't die.
I need to actually go back and do like a proper review of Shadowdark, because when we went over it, and it was sort of the quick start rules, and we were trying to like guess like what it was about at the time, and you know, I will freely admit that like I got some things wrong about it. So I own the book now. You know, I actually play it with my kid.
Nice.
While, so. We were a little bit negative.
Is doing the same.
We were a little bit negative about the quick start rules, and we didn't really know what to expect. I mean, we didn't really know what to expect from Kelsey yet. So I'm actually a little bit embarrassed about it, because I think Kelsey has watched it since too, because she's mentioned it to me. But so she was I don't think like that anymore.
She was very charitable about it though too. She was like, you guys gave your honest opinion. That's cool. So it's like
and my first interaction with Kelsey was on Twitter a very, very long time ago. It was right when the PDF got released, because I backed Shadowdark, the Kickstarter, and I was going through the PDF, and I was kind of like, this is not for me. Like, it's just a dungeon crawler. It doesn't have, you know, I was hoping there'd be like a setting to it and everything like that. And she popped into the Twitter thread and was like, oh, well, you know, we've got like a more explicit setting material is coming out in like the zines that are coming along with this. And she was just very like chill, like which is such a ridiculous thing to be like, this content creator was, you know, was just a normal person. It didn't freak out on me. You know, it's like so rare these days, but it was really nice. Yeah, we had a really great interaction. And then it took me a while to really kind of get it. And it was after we made our first YouTube video that was supposed to be a Shadowdark versus OSE comparison, and just turned into this very silly story about Shadowdark. That was when we were like, oh no, this is really good. And then, we got to meet her along with Ryan Howard at North Texas very briefly. And she spoke very highly of both of you guys. And it was, she's just a great person. We really, really appreciate her backing this project as well, which was wonderful thing to wake up to this morning.
She's been like one of the nicest people I've met in the hobby. I don't know.
She's good people. She's good people. But I need to go back and revisit it. I still don't know if Shadowdark is a game that I would run like as my full on, like, this is the game system. This is the game system I'm gonna run. You know, this is my main one. But it's just because I have other things that I'm interested in.
I mean us too.
We have a lot of different games. And we like to play a lot of different games. But it is very good. And this was one of the things that I realized was like, if I had friends over and they were like, what is Dungeons and Dragons? Like, can we play that tonight? Like, Shadowdark is no brainer. Like, you can get them playing immediately. You can really do a zero prep thing very easily. And it's, I feel like this, because Professor Dungeon Master, I think, released a video this morning where he was talking about Shadowdark versus, you know, the 6e WotC. And he was like, this really is kind of the spiritual successor to BX for the modern era. This is very much like the D&D that we played in the 80s, but it has the kind of newer mechanics in it. And it does, to me, feel like that, like, if someone's first taste of RPGs or of Dungeons and Dragons in particular was Shadowdark, that would probably be the best possible starting point you could have. You
have a much higher chance of like getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do everything, and it's not focused on everything. Like it doesn't have,
which is fine. Like that, and that's a good
like
thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Like it has a very focused and well executed vision on this thing that it does.
Right.
And if you want a game that does 3 things that Shadowdark doesn't do, then Shadowdark might not be for you. That would be the
what a
that
concept.
would be the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've thought about like, I should write something for Shadowdark too. I mean, I like the system; it's interesting, but it is very hyper focused on the dungeon crawl, like the torch time, the torch time thing being a big thing about that. Where it's like, this is a mechanic that is explicitly focused on the dungeon crawl,
right?
You know, and so
I gotta say that. I'll just interrupt you. I am Shadowdark torch time pilled. I have taken that pill. Getting my players to track torches is nigh impossible. So just setting an alarm on my phone has been awesome.
It's actually kind of a deceptively hard system to write for, because it's very simple at its core. But at least for me, like the whole darkness thing and like the light thing is such a core concept of the game
core to it. Yeah.
that I do not want to like get rid of that just for like a random setting. So when I write stuff for it, I have to like figure out like how do I incorporate like, you know, that whole thing into my setting. So, you know, that's what I had to do with Blacklight, with like the like batteries were draining faster and stuff like that. And but it actually makes it really deceptively hard to like write anything for it, because you can't just like slap any old setting onto it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, you no, I completely agree with that. And that's one of the cool things is a lot of the monsters, and she even has a section in there, you know, it's called Attack the Light, you know. And I think Michael Putlak has a zine coming out called Attack the Light on Kickstarter relatively soon. But there's a lot of monsters, even the low level monsters. Like there's one that I really like that the name is escaping me, but it's basically this like flying octopus that can use like a darkness ability to extinguish a torch. It's like, this is not one of the more powerful monsters, but when the light goes out, things are so dangerous and so deadly. Yeah, it's over, you know. So it's very deadly, and I really, really like that.
I guess like for me, it's like the delving into 0E and seeing how like torches, for instance, like a lot of people when they do surprise in 0E, I wonder like, do they roll to check if you dropped your torch? Because that's a real distinct possibility written into the rules in the 3LB books, you know. And then when your light goes out, no PC race or character race has dark vision, and all the monsters can see in the dark. So it's like it's very it has, so I see that sort of lineage into Shadowdark, I guess. Of just
and that's something that's
darkness terrifying.
Like very that she is very clear in the book too, is that, you know, if you're making new spells or doing like new things, is that like you have to make sure that fits with the light mechanics. Like don't give a spell that lets people see in the dark. You know, that would just be
defeat the purpose.
It would defeat the purpose of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, not to bring it back to my own shit, but I had to solve that with Blacklight because, you know, it's modern. You have night vision goggles and stuff. So I'm like, how do I tie that into the whole darkness thing? It's like, okay, well, night vision goggles take batteries. If you're in the supernatural area, like, you know, it starts draining your batteries faster. So it's like, yeah, you might enjoy your night vision goggles for an hour, but then you're down to your flashlight, and that's only going to last like another hour. And then, you know, what do? You're just standing there with your Zippo lighter and your pistol. So
exactly. And the Zippo lighter's not going to last that long too. So no, that's really cool too. Yeah, if you are in a supernatural hell dimension, it should be screwing with your electronics.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I see. For some of your stretch goals here, though, too, to get back to that, you're gonna add it axe compatibility with this as well. It looks like
yes. So we have a section called the Append Axe, an appendix for axe players that will basically take all the encounters. The treasure. This is the one thing that was much harder to convert between Shadowdark and Axe. Is that the treasure tables are just completely different. So we'll be handling all of that.
XP works differently too.
XP works differently as well. The carousing works differently as well because they both have carousing XP mechanics in it. So that actually is going to be, I think, the most interesting challenge is how do we make this Shadowdark carousing table with the outcomes, because that is really important to the module work in Axe. That'll be the most difficult challenge. But Axe is great because at least in the in Axe 2. he exposed all of the algorithms and tools for how to build monsters and everything and have it fit within the setting. So we're using those to, or will be when it's, when we reach that stretch goal, we'll be able to use those tools to actually take our legendary monsters from Shadowdark and build them in such a way that they fit into acts much easier. And the thing is, there's not one-to-one equivalents with all the monsters, but there are a lot of things in the Axe Monsters Manual that will fit as replacements for the monsters here. So there's but there's magic items that we're going to be designing that way as well. So it'll be really cool. And this is one of the things is people, oftentimes it's not just limited to this, but for any sort of D&D sort of supplement, people are always like, will this work in X system? Usually it's really trivially easy to get things to work within the D&D ecosystem. But this is made primarily for Shadowdark, which is a very light version of D&D, and we'll have a compatibility guide for a very not light version of D&D as well. So
the heaviest version of D&D.
If your game falls somewhere in the middle, I assume that you'll be able to make that work.
Yeah, there's Shadowdark, and then there's the Lieutenant Barkley version of D&D, and that's what Access is.
Yeah.
The lawnmower man of RPGs.
Yeah.
And then the last one that we have on there, as of yet, we may add more. It depends on how well we do. Is a third dungeon. Right now we have 2. They're very deadly. But there is referenced in this one a third dungeon that's kind of left open for the game master to add their own things in. And we have several things in that in the book like that, where it's like, here's a big blank space for you to fill in. But we do know that people like dungeons, and what's better than 2 dungeons?
3.
Yeah, obviously. So we'll build out that dungeon ourselves. And
so that'll be one of the frequent patrons of the Oyster is
Garfunkel the Wise.
Yes, the not so aptly named Garfunkel the Wise. So he's been building his wizard tower and also excavating very unwisely certain things
in his
and
finite wisdom.
Very finite and limited wisdom has been building up and digging down.
And attracting potentially more beasts.
Yes.
Does he consider the darkness his old friend, or?
I think that's his departed ally.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Simon.
Yeah.
Simon maybe is his cohabiting.
They had a
wizard.
falling out.
Yeah.
They went on their solo career. So that's awesome though. I think that's cool. And so I read in the Kickstarter here too, just so people can get to the concept of the size of it. It's I think you said 200 pages at this point.
Yes.
Which that's a beast of a book.
Yeah.
Especially for digest.
It'll be digest sized.
Yep.
So
approximately the size of
the
Shadowdark.
book.
There may be slight differences with the drive-through print on demand format, but it is digest format, so it should be pretty similar.
Yeah, and so it's about 200 pages right now, and the stretch goals we had some add-ons where people could submit their character, and we're going to use those to create a rival NPC party and kind of link that into the web of intrigue that's already there. All of those stretch goals will come later, but you'll get kind of basically the finished PDF as it is without the stretch goal content shortly after the campaign closes. And then as that content gets added, it'll get bigger and bigger. And then once everything is done, then we'll do the print version. But it's a significant module. This is one of the things where this idea took on a life of its own. And if you put it in your campaign is going to take on a life of its own too. And this is the thing that has been so validating, is all the people that have play tested this have had wildly different experiences in it, which is awesome. So this is it. It will never be the same as someone else's campaign with the Shucked Oyster.
So we have a viewer question here, and I think it's maybe good to you can answer this question for them. Jan T says, "I want to get this product. Due to the nature of content, it will never see the table for me and my players. What could a person like me harvest from this?"
A bunch. So there's 2 things. obviously, yeah, like this is about a brothel. There's some, raunchy humor in it, but this is not a game. This is not a supplement that is focused on like prurient sex stuff.
Right.
If you're running this with kids, obviously we do not recommend that. This is not a supplement that should be used at the table with children.
But even if you don't want to have a brothel and these prostitutes, like we were talking with Harmony Ginger over like this last weekend, and she had asked if the brothel could be reskinned as a casino.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
You can
very easily,
because the book is written from the perspective of a bunch of these NPCs. We dedicate considerable word and page count to all of these characters, so you really know who they are and what they believe, and why they're doing sort of what they're doing, and you can read those NPCs, understand the logic very quickly of what's going on, and quickly make a couple of different changes to the set piece. Repaint it into being something else, so that if you want to use it, you can use it.
The more I've thought about it, the casino thing would work exceptionally well as well, because
big time.
Without like spoiling any of the major content, there is this whole module is kind of a tale of spiritual redemption. There has been a spiritual fall with some certain characters, and there's the opportunity, which is not going to happen in my game, apparently, with my players. There's the opportunity for this very real redemption arc, and having it be a casino
is perfect.
Gambling,
thematically appropriate.
Thematically appropriate.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. You could, a casino would work perfectly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
But even if you want to run it, but for whatever reason, scheduling, it's going to take a while to get to the table, even if you can and want to run it, use it in play. Like I was saying before, this is putting forward a lot of what we've talked about on our channel with regard to how to make a world come alive and how to do a character first sort of approach to populating a world and really fleshing it out. So you can use this as inspiration for, how do you do actual character relationships that are not cringe?
Well, you said something there, and I want to hone in on that, because I think this is what's important and what's neat is, I think you've already mentioned, like, a lot of us have like very different views about like what constitutes a game, what should be the focus of the game, and etc. And yet we're all still friends because we're able to disagree, and that's cool. Your game is ran that way. I'm running my game this way.
Right.
Look, all our groups are having a good time. But I appreciate you guys, actually writing something down and putting something out there, putting your money metaphorically and literally where your mouth is,
exactly,
in order to be like what you're professing on your channel. Because I talk about, I've tried to do this too. Like, a lot of the games that I make have lots of tables in them to help with a low to zero prep game and a more kind of like wargamey aspect, and then someone wants to argue with me, and they're like, whatever you're doing doesn't work. And it's like, well, what do you know? You haven't done anything. Like, who are you? Like, not to be arrogant, but it's like you're not contributing to the hobby. You're just arguing with me for the sake of arguing.
Right.
So I appreciate you guys I appreciate you guys being like, no, this works. We've been able to make it work, and we've written it down in an adventure for you to try it and make it work at your table too. And I wish a lot of people that were very, that had such vociferous opinions about things could do the same themselves, and they oftentimes don't, because they can't. They don't know
because they can't.
It is that simple.
The ironic thing is, though, is that you guys obviously wrote it from like your whole roleplay philosophy and your acting. I'm a thespian, but ironically, I think it could work really well for like a zero prep type thing, because It's just so random. It's like there's all the you roll a lot of tables and stuff like that. So I think it kind of like marries like the two.
Yeah, you really can't prep for the oyster.
No, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. So
and that's the thing, is that we wanted to because again, like this is like we said at the you said at the beginning, it is kind of to give like the downtime something more there, but it's totally still integrated with what Shadowdark is about. Like when you start to get into the meat of it, like you're gonna go underground into really scary places. You know? Like that is this is not a product that is at odds with the philosophy of the core book at all. We wanted to try and bring the parts of our kind of experience and vision that we think are important to this without, again, disrupting anything within like the actual core system.
Right.
I'm trying to look at chat here. Chubby Funster says, what is the BLG design dungeon design philosophy? Jacques, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm a retard, so sorry everyone. Style and non-linear. I'm not French. I don't
Yeah.
you know.
Jacques.
Style, non-linear flow, risk reward balance, puzzles, Gygaxian traps. What can we find in these shucking dungeons?
Oh man, a lot of stuff. So our philosophy on this is that we didn't write this to be balanced. Like there's a lot of and this seems like it would frankly be kind of hard to do. And if you're using random encounters in Shadowdark, it would be hard to have a balanced dungeon. Because like I said, you can just run into 1d4 mummies as a level 1 character. That's not balanced. Our philosophy is what we have placed in the dungeon. And again, it was through using the Shadowdark mechanics. So it is 100% in line with rules as written. What's in the dungeon is what's in the dungeon. It's a dangerous place, and there's going to be there are multiple potential total party kills in these dungeons.
What is this actual dungeon?
Yeah,
right.
It's
and so therefore, what follows?
Right, and it's there's. Let's see. The question is risk reward balance, puzzles. So there are not explicit. Whenever I hear puzzles, I'm always thinking of like the game Myst or Riven.
I'm
not
particularly partial to puzzles because puzzles.
I don't think they fit in a game like this.
A player solves a puzzle. A character really doesn't.
Right.
And they devolve to player meta knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there are traps, and in Shadowdark, you don't make rolls for detecting traps. You don't have like a probability on like thief skills or anything like that. It's very much like the players describe what they're doing, and if they are smart and they search around, there should be clues about the traps. And so all of the traps that we've designed, there are definitely cues that there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
So if you are
one which is very obvious and which was promptly ignored, and resulted in
extremely obvious trap.
The thief losing his legs.
Yeah. Our thief missed of ignored. The cue was given.
He saw it and then
chose to ignore it and took max damage on the trap and then got hit by a fireball.
Yeah.
So he paid the price.
I am of the same mind when I design traps. Like I don't design lots of crazy traps. Like a lot of traps in my dungeons are like pit traps, arrow traps. You know, big rocks fall from the ceiling because you pressed on a pressure plate and it releases like a giant 2-ton brick on top of it. But I remember and I was running Palace of the Vampire Queen, and that's like one of the first modules ever for D&D for 0E. And there was a room that had like a bit, like the ceiling pretty much just comes down and smashes people, but it lures them in with treasure on the front. And so like the players are I remember proposing it to my players, and I was very proud of them because they ended up not dying, where they're like, I'm like, okay, you're in this room and along the walls, you just see like, there's just like these scrape marks, like along the side of the wall. And in the dungeon, in the room itself, there's like this white powdery substance on the floor.
Yeah.
And
I wonder
like
what all this is.
Yeah. It's like what? And so they were like piecing it together, and they finally, figured out what it was. And so they tried to open the chest from far away and ended up triggering the trap. And lo and behold, like the whole 2-ton ceiling comes down and then slowly goes back up.
Right.
So like, it's a smashing trap. So yeah, I like designing traps that way myself, where like you're relying on. It's kind of like puzzles, I guess. You're relying on some player meta knowledge or basic knowledge, but it's not I don't know. It's if they die, it's their own fault, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. The traps are not cheap. It's not like, well, you rolled one under the throw you needed to succeed on detecting the traps.
Yeah.
So you stepped on a invisible trigger, that you couldn't have seen possibly. So it's very much like the traps are all like that. They have definite cues. So and some of them can one in particular can become, it can either be a TPK or it can become a massive advantage to the players if they play their cards right, if they're smart about it. But like I said, we followed the procedures in the Shadowdark book, and it made a lot of really varied and interesting stuff, because it's like I don't have to sit there and choose exactly which room. Like there's like a couple of rooms that we were like, okay, this is definitely going here, but it's like I don't have to choose which room is empty. I don't have to choose which room has a trap. We were able to really take the results of those rolls and then determine, okay, why is this here? It's the whole process of using random encounters and everything like that, abduction, reasoning backward for like, okay, why would this thing be here? And tying that into our vision of what is in the dungeon as well.
Right. And I would say just as importantly, flavor text, the descriptive text, that's not supposed to be fluff.
Yeah.
That is pointless. That is the soul of sort of what it is. Yeah. So again, what is this place? And following that, how would it feel to sort of be here? Right. What does that inform? So there's again, we have two different dungeons in some respects with coming at kind of opposite ways, where
very different feels.
We have one location where this place used to be something else. And there are echoes of what it once was, and sort of the feel that was sort of present in that place that informs the random encounters, if there even are any in a particular room. Why not?
I'm glad you mentioned, because I've been arguing with people on X relentlessly on you mentioned like making the dungeon via the rules. You use the rules within Shadowdark to make this dungeon. Obviously, you added some of your own discretion to it as well to make this stuff fit. And I just want to point out to all the people that think that this is impossible to do, that like you guys have, I think, a fundamentally different mentality than I do going into the game, and yet you're still able to make that work.
Oh yeah, totally.
I just want to point out to those people that they're wrong. So
yes,
big true.
Yeah, they are. And the thing is, it's like on the subject of like random encounters, I used to really not like them because I just equated them with how they played out in Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, exactly.
Like childhood. And it's like I was like, I hate that.
This is arbitrary and dumb.
It's arbitrary and dumb, and it's a grind. It feels like I'm doing exercise in a video game,
Which is like, yes, done that way.
Done that way, it's bad. Yeah. But if you actually have a good game that has, thought out encounter tables, they kind of make sense on their own, because you're not using a generic random encounter table for the whole world. It's like you have it by different territories, and if you have a well-designed setting, a lot of times you have setting specific things in certain areas. Right. So it already kind of makes sense. And this was in our Axe game. This was one perfect thing. A way that they first got sort of intrigued by the Shucked Oyster was that they were in the nearby forest trying to clear hexes because they were trying to set up a domain there. And I rolled a fairly rare encounter. I got a hag, and there is a character in this game that is a hag. And so I was like, okay, this is the Shucked Oyster character. This is where she's hiding out in the woods. And then they killed her and harvested her for monster parts. And that plot hook was gone. But it had consequences. It had big consequences later on in the game, which was a lot of fun. But that's the whole thing. Is it's like you're not doing something arbitrary, and if you got a roll that made literally no sense, like I'm in a 10-foot by 10-foot hallway and I rolled a dragon that physically cannot fit inside the hallway. Okay, don't use that result.
Right.
Again,
roll again.
Use your discretion.
Use your discretion. You are a human being with a brain and a mind, and you can use that. And these
tables are all there to support your brain.
Yeah, your brain, not to take over for your brain.
Anti-random roll people, they always think that like the first roll, like you just go with it. It doesn't matter. Like it's some gonzo nonsense. Like you don't care. It's like no. Like I'm still using my own like judgment. I'm using like 30 years of reading fantasy books. Like you know. Of like story structure that I have in my head of like all these cool little things that I know to like make sense of this. So yeah, like I'm not just like some PlayStation 1 like 32-byte chip. Like
it's a prompt to the imagination and a way of making the world. It has a consistency within the world. And it's, I don't know, they're super useful. I don't use them all the time, but they've definitely, random encounters have added so much to my games. And it's not hard to imagine why most things are the way they are in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, I've been running a white box game for supporters on the channel, and they ran into some giants, some hill giants. Yeah, and they ran into hill giants like multiple times, and every time the first time it was like they tricked the giants to let them go. Yeah, and I'm like, they ran into them again, and I'm like, all right, it's the same giants.
It's the same giants.
Yeah, because it was in the same hex. I'm like, this is where they live. They live in this hex. So you ran into the same giant, and they tricked them again. And I think they've tricked them because the giants are really stupid. They've tricked them like 2 or 3 times. So now they're like kill on sight from the giants because the giants are like, these guys. I think these liars. I think these guys are taking us for a ride. You know, that's like how the giants are. And so I think we should kill these guys next time we see them. You know, I don't think they're being honest with us. That's like my thinking of the giants, and it's you know, it's humorous, it's funny, and now the players are like, maybe we should go around this hex for a while and not go through it. You know, and it was all determined via random encounters. So, and you know. I'll just say Rexsteel's comment here too. Honestly, your guys' mentalities are actually not all that different. Your ideas meld perfectly together. I think we emphasize different things.
Yes, it's different emphasis.
Fundamentally, I think we're all striving for like the same goal.
Yeah, you know? You want a living world. You know, that's the cool thing.
Yeah. I was running Curse of Strahd last year for 5e, and the characters were going down like this narrow mountain path, and I rolled a random encounter, and it was like a single Revenant. I'm like, well, I could just be like, wow, Revenant jumps out, like, you know, fight. Like, no, I described like this figure standing like, you know, in like the blizzard, like he's like leaning on like this big sword. There's like a ragged cloak like flowing around him. And it turns out he was like some undead warrior who like could only die if he like was defeated in like combat. Yep. I basically made him Umbra from Elder Scrolls. You know, like the orc that you meet in Morrowind. Like he's wearing the samurai armor and stuff like that. So I basically made him that, but he was like an undead warrior. And then he like pointed at the fighters, like, I want to like challenge you. Like, you know, it has to be honorable combat. Like, you know, if your fucking friends jump in, then I'm just gonna murder you. But so the fighter like fought this guy one-on-one, and I rolled really well, and I basically like critical hit him like on the first hit, and like brought him like this wasn't fudging or anything. I literally brought him to 1 hit point.
Nice.
And then the guy was like, you're pretty good, but you know, you're not ready yet. Come meet me again when you're ready. So now the fighter had like this whole goal for like, hey, I'm gonna fucking like find this guy again. I'm gonna when I'm a bit more higher level, I can beat him. Maybe I'll get a sword or something. Who knows? Yeah, and he gets to be free from his curse, whatever you know is going on. And this was just from like a random wall. So this is a random wall that like I tried to make sense of, and it turned into like this whole plot point. And for some reason, people that are against those random walls, they don't really get that you can actually do that.
I think it's so I'm obviously become an advocate of playing games as best as you possibly can, rules as written, and I think they get a lot of things wrong. These people get a lot of things wrong. They look at tools like your Shucked Oyster thing, or they look at tools like random encounter tables and things like that, and they're like, I roll and I have to do like the module as written or the random encounter table as written, and then they don't actually play the whole freaking game as written. Like they'll homebrew rules and ignore, like they're so willing to use their brains and to reinterpret rules in certain ways. and not use certain things or hand wave certain things, but then it comes to like this random encounter roll and they're like, I have to use it, and it's like what, you're willing to fudge a dice roll but you're not willing to fudge the random encounter roll or the dungeon generation roll. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you even
the thing is being? I think they are
weird.
I think it's just a way of them straw manning, honestly.
Yeah.
But I appreciate, you know, that your guys' thing here is like, you know, I do think with Rex still here, it does kind of meld a lot of different gaming philosophies together, which is like, we want to you want to promote like role playing and downtime and interacting with NPCs and building a living world.
Yep.
But you're doing so through these roles, and you're doing them through the rules in the game and mechanics. And I think that it's a good way of showing, because a lot of people, like, I can beat that drum all day myself. You know, I can beat that drum of like, no, you don't understand. Like, because a lot of people think I'm anti-story, I'm anti-role, I'm anti-role playing because of the views I have. And it's like, no, I just constrain myself within these things in order to produce results from which role playing and story and things emerge. Right. And people just don't seem to get it. So I think like having something that kind of can use those elements to kind of prove the point via, you get to experience it. And I think something like your Shucked Oyster supplement is a book is a good way of doing that. You know, that's, people oftentimes just need to experience things before it clicks for them. I think for me, that's what it was, you know, like too, I'm mean to these people sometimes, but I also have to come back and go like, you know, I was like them too at one point, right? I had to like actually try it, experience it, and then I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It works.
I just wish that was like their first instinct. If they like hear something that's outside of their experience, like it's like, hey, that sounds interesting, I'm gonna try it, instead of like, no, I disagree, and this is why you're wrong, and you're an asshole, and I'm gonna like shit on you. Like,
And
but here's the thing. It's like there are certain things where I know I don't need to experience this thing to know that it is bad. Yeah. If you're coming at me, do tell me why I'm wrong. But if I correctly point out why your idea is terrible and you're completely misguided, that's on you.
Yeah. We take a different tact with people, I think, than a lot of content creators, that when people disagree with us or try to be mean to us, they don't understand that we're much, much better at that than they are. We are happy to engage them on those terms. So,
yes.
I've been telling Vic, like, before you guys even jumped on, I was like, man, I feel like I'm resisting this like villain arc. I feel like I'm resisting this like heel arc where I'm just gonna you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna be mean to people now.
Yeah,
you know, because I can be pretty good at being mean too. So it's like,
the thing is, it's like and this is something I believe in life too, is that you should always be nice to people unless they give you a very compelling reason not to be. And a lot of people on the internet give you compelling reasons very easily. They're just throwing them out there, you know? And the thing is, it's like a lot of times too, it's like if people can roll with the punches, then that's awesome. Like there have been some people who said some very funny things to us that, you know, it was kind of like, all right, fair enough. Cool.
Well, when I first met you guys on like Twitter, like that was kind of like how we were interacting. We were kind of like low-key dunking on each other and then like laughing about it. And I'm like, these guys are like, I don't really agree with everything they're saying. I agree with a bunch because I'm like kind of more of a centrist when it comes to the whole role playing versus gamifying stuff. But like, so I was like, these guys are funny, and I was actually like going around like telling other people, like, no, they're not assholes. Like there were some people that I knew that like hated you guys, and I was they're fucking, they're hilarious, and they will actually listen to your points. And
but that's the thing, is that we also like, we know that there's other people out there like us, and we know that there's people who will get the jokes, and it's like
right,
like, and that happened, you know. Vic got the jokes, so it worked.
I don't know, I still might do a villain arc, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We can decided to go the other way. Arc.
It's not villainous to fight back against evil.
True.
I went into my nice guy arc. I tried to be fairly nice and polite on Twitter, because if I go the other way, I don't have a middle ground. Either I'm like really nice, or I'm just like getting myself like banned from Twitter, basically. So I have to just go. I have to just default to nice, basically.
Yeah, I've tried the nice guy arc, and it doesn't work. So people still will be horrible.
I know that's the thing.
There is no nice guy.
It doesn't matter how nice you are.
Yeah, there's no nice guy arc. There's just a nice guy lose condition.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That really is true.
Yeah, because it like you can be the most good-natured person online, and people will just say the most insulting.
And if you just want to be diplomatic to people who hate you or are way out of line, they're not wrong. You are
right.
You know. That's just the truth of the matter.
We do not negotiate with terrorists, is what we're saying.
Well, that was like, what was it on X the other day? I'm getting into wargaming, back into it and stuff, and I got some solo wargaming, like chit and hex wargaming, stuff. And I shared one. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'm having fun playing this, and I'm gonna talk about it probably on my channel here if I get a chance. And the guy just like cool retweeted me like, oh, if you want a solo game as a loser, then just like masturbate to My Little Pony porn. And it's like, what?
Well, here's the thing. People like that, all of their accusations are confessions.
Exactly.
100%, 100% a projection.
I retweeted the guy. I'm like, this guy seems to have some very intimate knowledge.
Yeah. That was very specific.
Yes.
like he's done this before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's true. You can say like the most milquetoast stuff on Twitter about the tabletop hobby, and somebody will just completely like shit on you,
freak out.
Yeah, I remember saying like, hey, I'm not really interested in like Game of Thrones like style like political intrigue in the D&D. I just want to like adventure and like stuff like that. And this guy like went on for like a 3-day rant, like calling me a racist because I was like denying like I was denying how like kings influence history or whatever, and that somehow meant I was a racist. I have no idea what his logic even was, but like just me saying like, hey, I don't really like political intrigue in D&D. I just want to like adventure, and then like the king is like the guy that pays me like a handful of rubies, like in Conan, when Max von Sydow was like paying them. Like that's what I want, and it somehow made me a racist. And he was like tagging me and like all this shit and calling me a racist.
I know they get
shit.
fixated
like,
too.
What?
That's
and you could either be nice, you could ignore him, you could try and explain why I'm not actually a racist,
right?
Or you could like nuke this guy from orbit.
Exactly.
One of those is the correct option.
Yeah, we generally nuke people from orbit. If at a certain point someone is just annoying, like I'm happy to block. It's like go away,
right?
Like, or to mute, because sometimes you can leave. They'll just keep ranting, and people in the comments will have fun with them. But it's I do like to nuke. That is a lot more fun.
Yeah. I used to nuke. I've tried not nuking. Now I'm probably gonna. I've tried both ways, and I'm sort of just like. I think you just got to be mean to people sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes
it's not necessarily being mean. Like you just have to put your foot down and be like, no.
Right. Yeah, because that's the thing. Because it's like being mean implies that you are
the other person didn't deserve it, and a lot of times people deserve it, and they will just fly off the handle. Like it is funny because like in the YouTube comments, a lot of times, I'm sure you've gotten this too, where if someone writes like 1,500 words in the comments.
I call it the Russian novel.
Yeah.
They think they're Dostoevsky in my comment section.
And it's totally crazy. And so it's like, first of all, I'm generally not reading that. And then I'll read the first part of it to see like, okay, is this just some person who's being super hostile? If they're being super hostile, I just tell them wrong or, like something else. And they get even more angry. And it's like, you're sitting here, or if you basically say something funnier back to them, they get so mad. And it's like, you just came in here and started throwing insults at me. Like you're saying this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How could you say this? Blah blah blah. It's like, why am I responsible for being nice back to you?
Right.
You started it. You drew first blood.
The whole just Wong thing is hilarious, and I've actually stolen that from you guys.
Crazy.
I've used that on Twitter a bunch of times now. So,
it drives people crazy. And I understand the thing is like that is going to come like people like will potentially not buy our stuff based on stuff like that. I don't care. I want people to buy our stuff, but at the same time, like I am not gonna just allow someone to sit here and, I'm not gonna. Oh, you're right. Please insult me. Oh, I need your money.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it goes.
No one should buy your stuff.
Yeah.
Nice guy art did work for Kelsey. I think Kelsey's different because, first of all, she's a girl, and I think people are just naturally.
She's not being a nice guy. She's just being like discerning with when she weighs in on something,
right?
Which is fine. That's different.
But I having talked to her personally, she does have opinions on things. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So,
which is fine.
Yeah.
But I also think this is just a factor of being on the internet is that like a lot of people go gloves off with dudes, and they put gloves on with women, and that's just what it is.
I think the thing though with that is that it tends to go either people put it's two extremes for women because women get a whole lot more hate on certain respects.
Sure.
And we'll get they get a lot more of it. But they also have people who are basically treating them with kids' gloves a lot of times, which is also just insulting.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like they men and women deal with different problems.
I've never had anyone ask me if I have an OnlyFans or if I can send foot pics or something.
Feet pics. We're getting out feet pics right now, though. So it's,
true.
We do on every stream.
I do think they actually did a study, and the study showed that men get more like generalized hate, and then women just get like
much more specific.
But there was a comment back here. I want to get back to it. It was a good comment. It's from Chris Lundgren, who's comes in a lot on our chat. I like the guy. He says, question for Black Lodge Games. Do you think that Shadowdark has changed the TTRPG landscape and opened the doors to retailers to carry more games other than WotC?
I don't know. I think retailers, it would be a profitable decision for them to carry Shadowdark. But I think
for sure.
I think what's opened the door to stocking things beyond Wizards is Wizards, to be honest with you.
I agree.
But it's I don't know, because it's like I almost look at retailers now as like almost fully being just loss leaders. Like everybody buys everything online.
Yeah, like who's going to a game store like these days for
and here's the thing. A lot of people will tell you that you can only, drive through is like the monopoly and it's the only place you can sell. And to an extent that's true. It's the big place. Everybody gets their PDFs there. A lot of people do print on demand. You can sell your books on Amazon. I have friends who sell things print on demand through Amazon, and you can sell on both, and you should be selling on both. So it's not.
Yes.
My problem is like Amazon keeps rejecting my books. It's just like this stuff's bleeding off the page, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Your software sucks.
Wrong. Yeah.
my problem is because of European laws, I have to be a registered business to sell on Amazon, and I'm not, and I can't be because of disability stuff. So
yeah, that's irritating.
Yeah,
but I have my books. I think I have almost all my books on like Lulu, for example, which I think Lulu has better quality than
they do. They have better print quality.
Yeah,
and we looked at Lulu for a possibility as fulfillment, but the margins are just even.
They're not
as good. And we didn't know anybody who had fulfilled directly through Lulu, and we didn't want to take a risk of being like, oh, we're the first one of our friends to do this, and it sucks, But the Lulu quality, I have a bunch of Lulu books here as well, and they're really, really good quality, but they are a lot more expensive. For both
that's
producer
definitely
and consumer.
A noticeable difference, though.
Yeah. You get what you pay for, but again, it's like if I want to be able to do offset prints. The unit cost comes down if you sell enough of them, like enough volume, like you actually make more money that way, and it's a higher quality product. But it's just at the moment, it's too much of a risk for us.
Listening to John's horror stories about getting his fucking Macreatal done, I never want to touch offset print ever.
Right. But on the flip side, our friend Kyle, who did Streets of Peril and has Oathhammer coming out, he's done multiple Kickstarters now through Print Ninja, and they are a little pricey. Again, if you do volume, the price per unit comes way, way down. But they have offices in America that deal with the American customers because it ships from overseas, and they handle everything from importing to shipping, and like it's a seamless experience. So it can be done. It's just I think they are probably a little more pricey than other printers.
I think for me, like, I learned a lot. It was a good learning experience. I learned a lot about like just little things that I kind of knew a little bit about already, having worked with Drive-Thru-RPG. You know, like I got to have the right color. I see a color profile and like all these other things that you got to worry about with print. But it's like on an extreme level when you're doing offset print. Yeah. And so it was like very good to learn those sorts of things. And I eventually figured out, because I use Affinity products, because I don't. Yeah, we do too. I don't like giving Adobe money. And so just trying to figure out like doing offset with something like Affinity was a good learning. It was painful, very painful, very stressful, but I learned a lot at the end. So I think if I were to do it, I don't know if I'll do it anytime soon, but if I were to do it again, like it'd be a much easier experience for me and for probably backers, and they'll probably get their books a lot quicker. I feel really bad with Makuhito, like it's been this whole process, but you know, I think people have been
like, I understand. I definitely understand from your perspective, but my thing is, it's like I got the PDF immediately. I got the offset, or not the offset, the print on demand super, super quick. And there are so many Kickstarters that take so much longer that this really doesn't feel like it's behind schedule.
No. Because the book is done. You could get it. You can get it on pod. It's not like it's not done. It's just, like even for me, like that stupid boat crashing into that bridge in Baltimore messed with my book. So it's like
things like completely beyond your control.
So
well, for me, I'm kind of also wary of offset print because I'm in Europe, and it would just add like extra logistics to everything, because I would have to figure out. I would have to contact like a fulfillment company in the US, because most of my customers are in like North America, and then like, you know, it just adds extra red tape that I don't want to deal with. So grab a cigarette, you'll feel better.
I know. I'm in Newport.
But you know, I'll say, like, I learned a lot though. Like I would say if you guys do go offset in the future, and this is advice for anyone else out there too, go with the fulfillment company. Don't ship the book out yourself. The fulfillment company is going to get better rates on shipping. You'll be able to do international at a better price even. And you can pay someone else to have the headache.
I don't want boxes. My fucking place.
Like, you don't want a pallet of books in your office or your living room or
which
your bedroom.
I literally don't have space for. I'm in an apartment.
That's another thing. I used to sell vintage items, and then I switched to vintage typewriters on Etsy. At one point, like literally like 80% of my apartment was just like shelves of
typewriters.
Well, this was just like cardboard boxes.
Nick
like
stacked up until the ceiling. Breathing heavily. Nick just bought a typewriter.
I heard.
It's gonna be awesome. It already is awesome.
I love a good vintage typewriter.
So Chubby Funster says, for Basic Expert, have you done a video explaining how to get the inlaid cover design that you made into print? Are you talking about the one from Makuhito, like the red foiling? I mean, that was just like vector art. Like the printer gave me a template, and it was just like black vector art on a white like empty background that I had to send to them, because they were going to do. I had to do two separate covers, so it's like the black cover with no image on it whatsoever, and then a separate image in the same sort of layout that would overlay on it, that was just like black vector art. So I don't know, it took a little bit of work, but that was like one of the least hard things to do that I had to deal with in getting it set up. So
by the way, I was meaning to say this earlier, but if you like Shadowdark, check out Chubby Funster's stuff. He does some awesome stuff. Really good stuff. I bought his Shadow Sun supplement, which is basically Dark Sun but in Shadowdark, and it's awesome. So check out his stuff too, because you know I am a firm believer in it, that we have to, like, you know, support and uplift each other.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, to a certain degree, there's some jerks out there that I want to fail, but but you know, for the most part,
everyone is a good faith actor.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Chubby, I think he's also working on an axe conversion of that Shadow Sun.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I know there's an OS. Someone already mentioned in comments. I think it was Chris Lundgren who mentioned it. There's like a one for OSC that's like a fan-made Shadowdark. Fan-made Dark Sun.
Yeah. I've seen that floating around. It got the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, cool. I'm gonna look at this later. And then it was like, oh, it's been taken down.
I actually have it. So if you want it, I can send it to you.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I didn't. I mean, Chubby said earlier he done stuff for Shadowdark, but I'm not really in like the Shadowdark sphere. People have told me like, John, you should do like Makuhito for Shadowdark, and I'm like, I don't know how to make that work though. Like,
yeah, that's really like Makuhito's really specific, you know.
Yeah. Like I don't know how to make the torch mechanic work because like
not everything needs to be another thing, you know.
You could make it work. It wouldn't be Makuhito, but you could do like something about the Aztec underworld in Shadowdark pretty easily, in my opinion.
It was true.
Yeah.
I did see you've been posting about your conceptualization of the dungeon as the underworld, the
mythic underworld.
Mythic underworld.
And it's getting him a lot of hate. So
yeah.
Well, those people are wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you're going into this like dark spiritual realm where you're a foreign invader. Somehow this is like it's pretty explicit in old school D&D, and I'm like getting hate for it, but whatever. They're wrong. I'm right.
Exactly. Many such cases.
Me going into the basement. I'm on a quest.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes going into the basement is scary. So
that is true.
It's true.
Like,
I still don't like it. I'm turning 40 next month, and I'm still like scared of like going into basements or when I have to go to my storage unit downstairs, and it's like this long hallway with like just flickering lights. I'm expecting like the Grudge to be like
session 9.
Like,
but is there anything else you guys want to? I mean, we still got time. So we usually go till 3 when we stream. 3 my time.
Let me see.
What was there anything we missed? Is there anything like that is really maybe you're really proud of, or you're really excited for people to see that you don't mind sharing about as well that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, there's.
I mean, it really is. I don't know if you agree, disagree, but it's not any one thing. There are a couple characters which are favorites of mine. I will let people discover them, but it really is just it's a whole package. It's a rogues gallery of really weird fucked up people. Some of them are nice people just in a bad situation.
Would you say like the town of Twin Peaks is a good like feeling for what the Shucked Oyster feels like?
Yes.
In relation to the different characters all having overlapping relationships, connections,
and
loves,
some
hates.
of them being more bizarre than the particularly bizarre than the others. Yes, very much so. But it's very much like this kind of weird medieval thing. So it doesn't feel like the Pacific Northwest in that sense.
Yeah.
But very much the whole thing of like everybody's got weird secrets and
something's going on,
and like they're all if you tried to tell the story of Twin Peaks without watching Twin Peaks, it kind of like makes no sense. You're like, well, no, there's this other character named Nadine, that has an eye patch.
Actually secretly this.
But then it's like it's impossible to kind of go through all of it. Which is the thing is like there's not really a way to 100% this module. Like you can definitely shut a lot of doors permanently, but there's it's going to be different for every single person. And the thing that I am the most proud of, and this was one of the things that we wrote first, I think, was the set of the patrons, the dozen different patrons that frequent the Shucked Oyster, because that's where a lot of the magic is in this game. And it's really done a lot for our own campaign. And like I said, like you guys should definitely read Lord Mateus's write-up on his blog if you haven't, because what happened with his game was very different than what happened in our game, and what happened in our game is very different than what happened in Tora's game. And it's just been very, very wild. I am so proud of this thing, and I think it's I think people are going to get a lot of value out of it.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad to hear things like that, because like I'm an anti railroad guy, so
Yeah, this is like this will detonate your railroad.
You guys are like the whiskered top hat guy with like the putting the C4 on the railroad tracks.
Exactly.
I appreciate that kind of stuff. I really want, because that's one thing like I've kind of made it my goal kind of internally, mentally, is to just kind of bring people back to this idea. I guess I know people love like their Dragonlance and they love their modules and they love these sorts of things, but like kind of bringing it back to this like older way to play a game. Where like the players make choices and those choices matter. And they like contribute to that world, and
it's so much more memorable that way. Like nobody is going to remember generally your plot that you wrote out for the players to play through. They're going to remember the things that went wrong with that plot and the things that where they made a choice and it had some crazy consequence. And again, this does not mean that that's just like random free for all and nothing makes sense.
Right.
That's not it at all.
The world is consistent and has verisimilitude.
And it comes to life. That's the thing that's so appealing about this to us, is that it's just like you never know where it's going, and it's always going to take on a life of its own. That's the cool thing about role-playing games.
And I've said it before, I'm a big Dragonlance appreciator. I'm a Dragonlance respecter. But the most people get too caught up in the books as the only way in which you can or should explore the world. And the world is way deeper, way more complex, and way more interesting than the Forgotten Realms, in my correct opinion.
And this is something that we've talked about before, is that a lot of times, like, and I think you guys would probably agree with this, the setting and the game mechanics kind of need to go hand in hand with each other. And Dragonlance is an example that it's a setting that doesn't really work.
It shouldn't have been for Dungeons and Dragons, because
no, I agree.
It's really not the point. It's like, are there dungeons in Dragonlance? Yeah, they go to Pax Darkus. Yeah, whatever. But it's not about that. It's about something way more both personal and far-reaching. And it's a much more mythic game than most people give credit for.
Nick ran a one-shot of Dragonlance, the Dragonlance setting within Mithras, and it fit like a glove. It was awesome. But it's also cool because that game has a lot of different magic systems, and so the D&D magic doesn't really fit.
No, for as evocative and as unique as the Dragonlance worlds, like
nobody's casting
high sorcery system,
in Dragonlance. Like that. It's not a spell
like
that makes
way
sense
to do it
that
wrong.
world.
It's so bad.
And on the flip side, something like the Shucked Oyster probably doesn't really fit in Mithras very well. It fits much better in a D&D style game.
Yes.
This isn't I don't think this should be a controversial opinion, but like different systems are built to achieve different things.
Correct.
Like some people have talked about Cow Punchers, my Western game in there. Like, why did how's that doing? It's doing okay. But its downfall, or not its downfall, but its hard selling point is that it's not like a known system. It's like one of the first systems I designed, which has its flaws. It's not a perfect game by any means. I'll be the first to admit that. But like people are like, why didn't you just like make it in BX? And it's like, well, I could have, but it could have been. But as I was writing it, I was like, I found that I was fighting against the system over and over again. And this is advice for like anyone out there designing stuff. If you're working on something and you're like, I want to build a game and I want to use this system to run this setting. If you're fighting the system like at every turn to make it fit that setting, you're using the wrong system for that setting.
Right.
Like that should just be a given, maybe the 2d6 traveler system would be better for it, or maybe the basic role-playing system would be better for it. You have to figure out what works best, or maybe designing your own system from the ground up. I don't recommend that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work, but it's
and that's something that, because I really like all the BRP games and variants, like Mithras is one, RuneQuest. Like I like that system, but it's a system that works much better for something that is a little more grounded. That's not super. You can definitely have like heroic characters and people who are very competent at things, but it's not right for everything. Like I would not want to run a superheroes game using BRP. It's just not meant for that, you know. Even though they have rules for that in BRP. And BRP is really cool too, because it's a design your own game toolkit. It's like it's got all these optional systems, but it's hard to just sit down and say, hey guys, we're going to play BRP tonight, because then I have to decide what game we're playing. You know, like which systems to use and everything like that.
It's kind of like the GURPS problem. Yeah,
exactly.
I've been reading through BRP, and it makes me feel better about my own stuff. Because,
really? Okay, because I really like. Because, I have the new version of it, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. But I get worried about being too convoluted, about being too wordy about stuff, and then I look at systems that are like massive, that have like these huge fan bases, that are like made by like pretty big official like publishers, and they're not really any worse than what I'm writing. So it makes me feel better.
But you got to look at that, and you got to reverse the logic on this, man. It's not that I don't feel so bad about it. It's you should be proud of what you're doing, because if you're doing something that you actually consider to be better than one of the most long-standing RPG systems in existence, that means
doesn't
that you're
speak to
making
their lack of quality. It speaks to your quality.
Speaks to your quality.
Well, not so much better. It's just like, hey, maybe me over-explaining this rule isn't that bad. Like nobody's gonna like trash my system over me having like an overly long paragraph. Because I'm reading this really big system, and it's just all overly long paragraphs.
Yeah, well, except in BRP, if you look at the mass combat section, this is my biggest gripe with it. Is oh sure, it says like there's mass combat, but as a GM, just make it up. I don't know, whatever. Don't ask me about it. You know, it's like a paragraph.
Why are you asking this question?
Wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't BRP, the sort of system intended from the outset to sort of do anything. I don't mind that there's no mass combat in Call of Cthulhu. Like, I don't want it there.
Just don't mention it then if you're gonna like.
Exactly. It's like, why was that in there?
Because someone asked a question, they had to go like, "What? Why? Why are you asking that question? You're a bad person for asking."
I'm actually running in the same issues with one of my games. I'm writing my 2d8 system, and I have like a section in the health and death chapters, your diseases, just make up whatever. I'm like, I might as well just remove that, because it's like I'm basically just saying, I'm just basically just long-windedly saying like, if the GM needs to make up some shit, just make it up. But
it's like there's certain things where I really like having GM discretion and leaving like blanks and stuff like that. But typically, if I buy a rule book and the game is supposed to be about a specific thing, like if a game is a medieval game that takes place during a war, I need mass combat.
I want it to do everything.
I want it to do everything, you know, but
situation entails.
Right. I don't want that part of the game left up to me, you know, but if it's like, here's an additional faction that, you know, is really left up to kind of you to fit in and do something with that. That's cool. But I don't want to like, if I'm going to run a game, it's like, I want to know how to play, you know, like I don't want to have to design it on the fly.
Right.
But not every game has to do literally everything.
No, I actually like games that are like really focused on that particular niche.
That's
why I used to like stuff like Twice That, stuff like Big Eyes, Small Mouth, which is like, hey, this game is just about like emulating like an anime, and that's like all it's trying to do, and it's not trying to have mass combat and like all these like superfluous like rules. It's just like about this one specific genre, and it does it really well. And I always like that stuff.
Yep.
All right. Well,
agreed.
I'm gonna bring it back up here. Your Kickstarter. You got like, I think when I looked at it when I started, was at 302 and it's at 305.
Yeah, number has definitely gone
definitely
up.
going up.
So you got a few.
We like the number go up.
We like the number going up. Thank you, everyone.
I think you got like a 2 or 3 backers while we were talking for the last 2 hours, so that's good.
Yeah.
Not that you have anything to worry about. You guys are doing really great. But yeah, everyone should check it out. Again, I'm gonna put the link in again just in case people miss it. It's in the video description, but if you're following the chat, here it is again. Check out their RPG. I did the cover up for it and some illustrations in it.
Yeah.
Patty did some illustrations.
Knocked it out of the park.
And
a lot of stuff by Dean Spencer, and then there's also like Carlos Castillo and a couple of the others. The names are escaping me, but we got a lot of the art that we're using.
Shadowdark artist.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is stock art, but it's stock art from the Shadowdark artists, so it fits the aesthetic very well. The aesthetic, it matches, and a couple of public domain pieces in there that are really good too.
Yes.
So it looks like
if you're making an RPG and you don't know how to draw, and you really have a small budget, go check out Dean Spencer on Drive-Thru RPG. His stuff is amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah,
and you'll start to recognize
reasonably
it.
priced.
You'll start to recognize it in all sorts of actually very big RPG publications.
I bought a Dean Spencer piece that's like a gorilla with like a cybernetic arm, and then I was like looking at the Kickstarter for like this big cyberpunk game, and that exact image was like on the Kickstarter page. I'm like, oh, I know, I know that one.
I know where you got that.
I don't know if I have the book with me right here. Oh yeah, I do, right here. So we have from the design mechanism. Oh my god, this is a stack of papers. So I was going to take them out one by one. Character sheets and shit. No, but this is a classic fantasy, which is Mithras design mechanisms. Oh shit, did we lose them? Or maybe they're just showing both of us. Okay, cool.
I made you guys bigger.
Yeah, thank you. So this is from the design mechanism, and so this is their way of kind of bringing the
incorporating like the D&D class
system into their thing. This image, though, you can get for like $10 on Drive-Thru RPG, and this is a major game company that's put out, and it's a great piece. But you can put this in your book. And it's not that expensive. So like you don't have to be afraid that you can't afford art. You will be able to afford some art, and it will be very good.
Right.
And then if you do have a little bit of a budget, we highly recommend hiring the basic expert to draw and do stuff for you, because he's awesome.
Yes.
And it was a breeze to work with him.
Well, you guys, I appreciate clients like you guys too, where will you give me creative freedom? And you're like, yeah, that looks good.
Rob,
Vic,
well.
It did look good.
Vic is like that.
Corner.
Vic is like that. Rob from Pulp Hummock Press and Gods of the Forbidden North is like that. I love working with people that are going to let me kind of be creative in the space. So
I gave you the art for Modern Necessities, and I was like, hey, maybe Goblin Crime Boss. That was like my only real request, and didn't even really define it. And then everything else, it was like, hey, do you mind if I draw an elf cholo on a bike? I'm like, yeah,
that was my
awesome.
I'm angry that you're asking me that question.
That was my idea. I was like, hey, there's still some pieces. Can I do do you mind if I do this one? And and then the succubus ethot one.
That one's fun.
I
love that one.
But yeah, so if you want to back their project here, you can get the PDF for 14, the soft cover and print on demand for 24, and the hardcover with digital for 34. And then you guys have your package deals. And I assume that they're still paying at cost on top of that, right? Is that how it's working?
Correct. Yeah, and that's all
for all the print
in each of the rewards. There will be an additional cost. The price. We do have late pledges as well enabled, but after the 30 days, the price will go up. And then on Drive-Thru, it will be more expensive. This is a hefty product, though, and it has a lot of content in it. A lot of very good content. But yeah, this is the chance to get it at its lowest.
It's lowest it's gonna be.
Yeah,
that's the way it should be. It should be Funsters asking how to hire me. Just hit me up. My email, you can find me on Twitter or on X, whatever it's called. And or my YouTube channel here. You can get my email for business inquiries via my YouTube channel here as well. And I can get you I can quote you whatever it is you need.
Yeah.
So
and I won't go into the price structure because that's for you guys to contact him. But we got the full page color piece for the cover and the full page interior black and white piece, and they were both extremely well priced and very, very well worth the money.
Yes, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Alvadar says
350. Yeah,
350.
350. Yep, that's how much. That's my rates. It's just 350. But yeah, so I want to encourage everyone to go check it out. Find the link in the video description or in the chat here, and I think we'll start closing it out here. Vic, is there anything that you want to point people towards that you're doing? That you finished your Kickstarter recently too, and you're finishing writing it and everything. So.
For everyone who backed Modern Necessities, you might know from the updates that I sent out, but the main book is in layout right now. So hopefully that will be done soon. I still actually need to do a little bit of writing on it, but that's dependent on some art, on some map art that I'm still waiting on, which I was promised today, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm also gradually plugging away at all the stretch goal stuff. It's not going as fast as I wanted to go. I'll fully admit that, but I still have time, so just be patient. And other than that, just check out my stuff. If you like Shadowdark and you like modern stuff, you like AK-47s and machine guns. Check out
when you think about it.
Check out Blacklight for Shadowdark. It just hit Silver Seller a couple weeks ago.
Hell yeah!
People seem to like it, so it's kind of like SCP type stuff. If you know what that is.
Yeah.
It's like you're a special forces team going into weird alternate dimensions to defeat monsters, and I don't know. That's about it.
I think it's probably the first modern Shadowdark supplement.
Probably. I first, if not one of the only ones. I haven't really heard of anyone else doing it. I know somebody, which kind of stole my thunder completely. You know this, Ginger, but that somebody's doing cyberpunk Shadowdark, which what I was literally gonna do, and then you showed me their posts. I'm like, well, shit.
I think you should still do it. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna call it what I was gonna call it Cyberdark, right? And
Cyberdark,
I was gonna call it Cyberdark, and they called their Shadowpunk. I'm like, shit. So
Chris Lundgren asked if Classic Fantasy is a complete RPG of its own. I think nearly so. They tried as much as possible not to have to reference the core rules of Mithras. We haven't read that one yet because we're really focused on the Mithras core rulebook. I think it's probably better to have both, but I'm not sure. I would just look at the product description page at the design mechanism, which, by the way, you can get 15% off the design mechanism if you use Black Lodge 15 at checkout.
Yes.
But I would double check on that. I think there is some references to the core rulebook, but for the most part, it is its own thing.
Chris is asking me if I have known. I'll just be honest, man. I've Crop Lunches is doing okay. I think it's silver, or maybe it's Western at this point, which is pretty good for what it is, which is a hard, strict Western game with no magic. You're just like a smelly cowboy in the Wild West trying to make it. So
hell yeah.
So because of that, I have probably no desire to add fantasy elements to it. Other people have.
Yeah, Mateus did a supplement.
Yeah, he added some supernatural horror stuff to it. For me personally, I'm not. It's just not my interest for westerns, so I don't do it. And then Juan Cholo wants to know if you can recreate Monster Hunter International Princess.
I am actually a huge Monster Hunter International fan. I've read all the books, including all the side books written by different authors. So I love Monster Hunter International. You can definitely do that with Modern Necessities. just grab a gun and start fighting monsters. Like that's as simple as it gets. Really,
it's just like real life.
Yeah.
Like a dungeon doesn't have to be like a literal, just like crypt, like somewhere in the wilderness. It could just be like an old empty apartment complex, and there's like a vampire with all his spawn in there. Like who knows? So yeah.
I guess before we close out, one last thing I'll share. I'll show my own stuff. It's whatever.
Absolutely.
Why not?
We'll talk. I'll show how far I am in Atomic Punk for everyone that's interested in that. There's a new version of Atomic Punk I've been working on, and it's at 167 pages. It might grow a little bit more. So it's fully cleaned up from 2160. Like it's a lot less janky than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
You can see I got the table of contents all sorted out. But like full color illustrations all on the inside.
Yeah.
So, this has been like so much work. Oh my gosh.
I bet.
Yeah. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I think the work will be worth it, especially if you do decide to Kickstarter it. Just try to do it around the time Fallout Season 2 drops. And
I don't know.
Golden.
I don't know if I'm going to Kickstart though. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't have a reason to Kickstart it. Like, I feel like I'm
money and accolades, and
but I also just want to release on DTRPG. And the part of the problem with DTRPG is that when you do those Kickstarter type things, like those don't count towards the towards your medal. And I kind of I'm vain and I want that medal.
That's true. But I would say,
what would you rather have? $200,000 or a gold seller?
I don't know. We'll see. I still have a long. I still have a long way to go with it. Like there's still lots of art pieces left to do. So
I would. Here's the thing. I would say my perspective on that is that you should Kickstart it because I think you'll make a lot more money that way, and you should be rewarded for making something really good.
Yeah, exactly.
And the best way to do that is to run the Kickstarter, hype it up, and get that to people in that format.
Dang, Kevin Crawford.
Yeah, Jesus.
Who does he think he is? No, but yeah, you see, doing like all these weapons too. Like this was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Finished them. Let's see, where's
I imagine this will probably be a bit closer to the actual Fallout vibe than what Kevin Crawford's doing.
Yeah, I kind of try and lean a little bit more into like the retro future look a little bit more. I like this guy cooking his drugs on a spoon, and
of course
this crazy guy. So I mean, I've had fun doing it, but man, it's just like
I like the page color as it contrasts with the headers and with the like the typewriter esque kind of text there.
I tried to find a font that was close to the Fallout font. It's like used in the Pip-Boy. I found the actual font, but you have to have the license for it, and I don't have the license for it. So I found a free one that was pretty close. So.
No, it looks amazing, dude, and I think you deserve that bag. Like just go after it.
So where's the one?
This is awesome.
This one. I was happy with this illustration here.
Nice.
Get wrecked, mutant.
The vehicle rules and everything like that.
Nice.
So.
Hell yeah.
The highwayman.
I'm currently working on monsters right now, and this is like where I'm pulling my hair out as well because it's all so monotonous. But like all the different different creatures and their stat blocks and stuff like that. So
I mean, that looks amazing.
I love this. Like I love it when a core game has all the monsters in it. Like I understand certain games you can't do that. Like Axe, you can't have a 1,300 page book, in one volume. That would be crazy. But I love it when a game has monsters in the core book and you have everything you need to play.
Yeah.
Supplements after that are all like extra gravy, and I like adventures and setting expansions and things like that. But I think you really should just be able to play a game, with the core book.
Agreed, fully.
This also, what I've worked on too, is I pretty much made a mutant monster generator as well. So like in my random encounter tables, there's like an option, or there's a result on the random encounter tables where it says generate a monster. So like,
nice.
what's great with that is that like it will totally throw your players for a loop, because if they start getting familiar with monsters, and all of a sudden they're like, I have no idea what the heck that thing is.
Nobody does.
So like there's like different creatures from which you can draw from, and to make like some horrible mutant monster. And I've experimented with a bit, and they're all terrible for your players.
Terrible as in terrifying and scary.
And then also I'm going to include a setting in it too, which is where I live.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So there's the Treasure Valley. I live in the Treasure Valley here in Idaho. So it's like a post-apocalyptic version of, of that. You get some background information and some factions.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And a map of the
nice.
of where I live around. I'm not going to tell you say exactly where I live, but
basic expert doxing himself with the Bitcoin map.
I dox.
So this is a grid, not a hex map. I am a little bit illiterate as to why hexes are the standard in RPGs and wargaming, and I saw Night Danger posted that grids are always better than hexes, and Night Danger is pretty smart. What was the decision here?
I just wanted to be different. I'm too dumb to know the difference as to why a square
I don't know either.
Is better. I
like both.
I picked square mostly because I love Fallout 1 and 2, and in Fallout 1, the world map is sort of divided up into a square a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of wanted to go for that vibe instead of a hex.
I imagine hexes are just because you can go like, in the the non-cardinal directions easier. I don't know. I'm also dumb, so who knows? Why Gygax went with hexes?
Yeah, I know, like military maps, and when you're trying to do overland navigation in real life, it's all grid.
Right.
But I'm not smart enough. I've not looked into that. I just picked it because I was like, aesthetically, it's different, and it's a little more like the classic Fallout games.
Right.
Yeah.
So to get through the Treasure Valley, do you have to go follow the Treasure Trail?
Yeah. The Oregon Trail does come through the more southern part, more towards the Magic Valley. That can be the fantasy setting, the Magic Valley. There's actually a valley out here called the Magic Valley. But yeah. So you will get a setting, and this is the Idaho Rangers. So.
Nice.
And then I kind of explain each point of interest and kind of give referees an example of what's there.
Well, I know one person who will love this, and that's Frank.
Oh yeah,
Frank is a huge Fallout fan. I ran briefly a Fallout game using Mithras, set in Alaska. So I did my own world building in the up there, but he loves Fallout. He loves Talon's Rangers.
You could, the thing with Atomic Punk is it's not like that makes it different too. Is it's not a D20 game. It's kind of originally built off of it, but it's 2D10. So I got my fancy like old school D10s here.
Well, Frank plays vampire. He's got all the D10s.
So. There you go. Yep. But so hopefully people will look forward to this. I don't want to spend too much time talking about my stuff when we're talking about your guys' Kickstarter.
No, man,
it's all good, man.
It's all good.
It looks sick.
Yeah. I'm also planning a game based on John's system, and I'm actually going to probably try to tie it lore-wise into Atomic Punk, but it's going to be like 1950s, 60s, like space opera. And it's basically gonna be about the people that managed to escape Earth.
Who got out?
All the nukes dropped and went to a different galaxy, and now they're like floating around there with their bubble helmets and stuff. So
that's awesome.
The lore in Atomic Punk that I gave was that like after World War II, Germany wasn't completely overrun, so the Nazis just sort of went like super isolationist and were totally focused on building rockets to get off the planet and get away from all their enemies.
The classic Nazi moon base.
Yeah, so one day like their whole regime just like disappears and everyone's like, where'd they go? And then they fight over the leftovers. So
nice.
Hell yeah.
And so that kind of leaves room for Vic to be like, I did it purposely so Vic could try and tie it in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But so everyone please check out their Kickstarter, give their channel a follow if you haven't already. Their channel's growing.
Thank you.
their channel's growing really fast, and it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, we crossed 10,000 subscribers today, so that was another
nice
big boost. That was nice.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope you guys got 28 days left to go, so you guys still have a long way.
Long ways to go. Right now?
Yeah, we're oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So about 1,000, and I think they've like hit what both of us have hit. So yeah, just don't give them too much for the next 28 days.
Cut it out, guys.
I got to 15, so
yeah. I got to like 12 and a half, I think.
I hope you guys get to 15. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I hope so too.
I hope so as well.
Yeah,
that would be
awesome.
Beyond. And beyond. Yes, again, just like every penny we've ever earned on the channel, it's going back into the channel.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
from my limited experience, I'm guessing, and you can hold me to this or not, I'm guessing probably ultimately about 25-30K.
Wow,
I'll take it.
I hope so.
I hope
that would be amazing.
You're gonna have
you're
gonna have a slump in the middle.
Yeah.
But at the end, everyone gets that FOMO thing, and then
right.
So you have the initial rush, and then like a huge slump, and it fucking sucks ass. Especially like saying there for like a month, like come on, and then like the last day or two, it's like ooh, it's nice. Kind of mirrors that first day. So
well, because I think they start featuring you higher towards the end. Like we were looking at it. Yeah, we just looked at the category, and it was like the first like 12 things were all like 2 days left, 1 day left. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I predicted for Warp from Bob Hammock Press. I predicted like 100K on his second Kickstarter, and he hit that. So hey, my prediction.
All right, if we don't make it, we're gonna sue you.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We'll start closing out here. Thank you guys for coming on. It means a lot.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. This was so much fun.
Yeah. I love you guys on. It was fun last time, fun this time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys are making something again.
We're happy to be doing it.
Maybe it's arrogant, but I think that when people make something and put their money where their mouth is, that gives you a leg up on all the loud mouth breathers that have not made anything.
Right. Yeah. So, and you guys always have an open invite to come on our channel as well, our streams.
Absolutely.
Especially, when you got Kickstarters or anything that you want to come promote, just hit us up and we'll have you on the Thursday stream.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you all for chat and watching and asking cool questions, being cool in the chat. I didn't see any problems in there. It was awesome. There's normally not a problem. But, here at Natural Ones, but always love you guys, and I don't know. We'll catch you guys on the next stream. I'm gonna I'm gonna stream again. I need to talk to the guy. I forget his name, and I feel so bad right now. But he's working on a 5e setting project, and his art is like incredible in it. What's his name? He kind of has like a Chinese name.
Oh yeah, he contacted me too. Let me look at my DMs.
I feel bad. I'm just like,
what's the vibe of the thing?
Yang Zhao.
Yeah. He it seems like it's a kind of like a Far East sort of mythical.
Yeah.
I love that.
He's interviewed us both, right? The old guy. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah,
he's a nice guy.
I just don't know how to pronounce his Chinese name. It's I think Zhao you pronounce Chao, so it's Yang Chao, whatever.
I could not tell you.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. He runs a YouTube channel as well, a smaller one. But he wanted to come on, and so I'm gonna try and get him on to talk about his project soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I guess I'll say too, I kind of want to bring the stream back. And one thing I think I want to start doing is, with Vic and anyone else that's interested, is I want to start looking at rule books and pretty much like providing video commentary, like going through rule books and like, this is what it means. Here's some history behind this, and having good discussions, because I really want to start promoting book mastery. And
that'll be super helpful for people.
Yeah. So I feel like I love doing interviews. Those are probably still going to happen, but I really want to really focus on getting people into reading their rule books and
actually reading the books. Yeah.
I mean, we already
big
at wall, so
I'm tired. I'm tired in this community, I'm going to use the C word, of asking a question of like, how does this rule work? And instead of actually getting a response as to how that rule works, you get people just like, oh, just throw it out. Just rule 0 it, you dummy. Like,
why are you asking the question?
Yeah.
Dumb question.
You're a bad person for wanting to use that rule at all.
Yeah.
Like, I am tired of that nonsense, and I want to foster within the hobby back to this idea of like, you ask a question about a rule and someone actually can answer it for you.
Right.
So
that'd be a great series.
So hopefully that's with the stream coming back. That's like my plan in my head. So,
nice.
But make sure you check out their channels. I'll actually tag Vix in the channel in the video description too. I forgot, Vic. I'm sorry. I'm a bad friend.
No worries.
But I'll add it.
Go ahead. So
I'll add it, and of course check out Black Lodge, and again check out their Kickstarter, support them, and
but not so much. Let me know.
Only the appropriate amount.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is, of course, 25 to 30K, as has been predicted.
Yes.
Yeah. And we will have a final stretch goal that we'll announce that will be at $69,420. So
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
We hashed out
regardless of how much money, how far that gap is by the end, we have a goal for that.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next stream. I don't want to say exactly when, but there will be another one soon enough. Again, we'll talk to this other creator about his project. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Dag iedereen.